Good evening and welcome to the channel studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. The Israeli military has confirmed for the first time that it opened fire on a vehicle carrying 5-year-old Hind Rajab and 6 members of her family in Gaza City during the war in Gaza. The Palestinian child initially survived the attack in January 2024 that killed several family members, but her body was recovered days later along with her relatives. After the attack, Hind managed to answer a telephone call from the Palestinian Red Crescent Society, which lasted hours. An ambulance it sent to reach her in a move coordinated with the Israeli army was then shelled, killing 2 paramedics. In a statement, the Israel Defense Forces said that following a review it would be opening a criminal investigation. Hind's killing was internationally condemned around the world. The former Ukrainian Defense Minister Mikhailo Fedorov has called for wartime elections in what is widely seen as the biggest challenge to Volodymyr Zelensky's presidency since Russia's full-scale invasion 4.5 years ago.
Democracy cannot be held hostage by Russia.
In a video posted on YouTube on Tuesday, adding that Ukraine is fighting precisely because we want to remain a free European state. Since the war broke out in 2022, Ukraine has been under martial law, which means elections are suspended. Fedorov, who did not mention Zelensky by name in the video, was unexpectedly fired from his role as defense minister last month, just 6 months after his appointment.
Defense policy cannot remain in a temporary state. But the problem is much broader than a single position or a single ministry. We must answer a fundamental question. How should the state function if the war goes on for years? And the next, if the war continues for another year, 2 or 3? Can Russia effectively gain the right to determine when Ukrainians can choose a government again? I am convinced that it cannot.
The United States has issued a rare rebuke of Israel after reports emerged it struck a Syrian military airbase near the Turkish border, calling the attack an unnecessary escalation. 8 airstrikes hit the Abu Duha airport runway and storage facility, according to Syrian state TV, although there were no reports of any injuries. Israel, while not commenting on the strikes directly, said Syria was on the verge of breaching the security status quo, accusing Damascus of allowing Turkish troops to deploy to the airbase. Syria and Turkey blamed the Israeli military for the attacks that they said threatened to escalate tensions in the region. US President Donald Trump said he will delay imposing new tariffs on a wide array of Canadian goods for 3 days as the countries firm up a trade deal. The announcement came less than 2 hours before a 50% levy on nearly $20 billion of Canadian imports was set to be in place. The two sides have been at an impasse on several issues, including US tariffs on autos and many Canadian provinces banning American liquor sales. Trump and the Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney spoke twice this week, and trade negotiators have been engaged in intense talks since July, after the US president threatened the new levy with a deadline of the 19th of August. The death toll from a ferry disaster on Zimbabwe's Lake Kariba has risen to 93, which makes it the country's deadliest transport disaster. That's according to a newspaper in the country. The ferry had a capacity to carry 90 passengers, but the paper estimates at least 168 people were actually on board when it was hit by a strong wave and overturned a week ago. President Emerson Mnangagwa declared a state of disaster following the accident, and search and recovery efforts are continuing by divers. The lake, which straddles the border with Zambia, is one of the world's largest man-made reservoirs, supporting transport and fishing and providing vital hydroelectric power to both countries. South Korea's joint annual military drills with the US will be cut short by 6 days at the request of Washington, that's according to its defense ministry. Seoul said that the period and scale of the 2026 Ulki Freedom Shield exercise had been adjusted due to a proposal on the US side. The drill will now conclude on the 21st of August rather than the 27th as planned. It comes after Donald Trump announced plans to curtail exercises with South Korea, citing his very good friendship with North Korea's Kim Jong-un. And more than 200 gold statuettes of Austria's most famous composer have disappeared from his hometown in Salzburg. The Mozarteum Foundation unveiled 320 statuettes, barely 50 centimetres high, showing Mozart with his dog. They were designed by German conceptual artist Ottmar Hall. Within 2 weeks, more than 80 of the polymer figures had disappeared, and on Wednesday a total of 210 were missing. The mini-Mozarts populated not only the garden of the composer's former house, but also his living quarters as well as several pavilions. Hall intended to sell the statues for around €100 once the exhibition was over, meaning whoever ran away with the 210 mini-Mozarts has not become an overnight millionaire. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the channel studios in Lagos.